Well, good morning. Time for another video. Actually, I made a video yesterday. And then after it was up for a little while, I decided to change the settings from public to private. I swore a lot. Was kind of not the nicest stating my opinion about certain types of people. So I thought, I'm just going to change that to private. Think about it before I let that be seen by too many people. That's one thing for those of you who are married to a Filipina. They don't like to hear you swearing all the time anyways. So if nothing else, just to keep from embarrassing my wife and being confrontational with people, I thought, well, maybe it might not be the best way to approach things. The subject of that video was nice guy or simp. I had somebody make a comment on my one video the other day, where I was talking about all these people who always asking, well, what does your Filipina bring to the table in terms of helping, pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. And somebody commented on my video, that, oh, now this is a simp, Some of you probably saw a video a while back by the Philippine Info channel where he talked about all the loser dumbasses who want to call other expats and people simps. And that's what people do, make themselves feel better. For those of you who don't know, a simp, if you look it up on Google, basically what it means is someone who's perceived as being overly submissive or maybe even desperate for someone's affection or attention, and without getting anything in return. Of course, the whole point of my video was about all the things you are getting in return, but I guess that's a subject for disagreement. Most of the guys you see who use that word and call other people simps, they're the kind of guys who like to think that they're players, They're men of the world, players. They know how to use women and get what they want. And, and they think it makes them cool. And, these guys who are always complaining about the women they're involved with. Some of you, like me, probably heard as you were growing up in church or somewhere that the key to a successful relationships that last, is that you're not thinking about what the other person is supposed to be doing all the time. You think about what you're supposed to be doing. What are you supposed to be doing? Your obligations, and you're a part of the equation. And those are the things you focus on. Obviously, the other person has to do their part too. But instead of always focusing on the other person, it's like with Tompo, If you go out all night drinking with a bunch of other expats, and then suddenly your wife is not being very talkative, whose fault is that really? Maybe you did something to cause the situation. We can all agree that Tompo is a very childish thing, but on the other hand, if you're acting like that all the time, maybe she's just sick of talking to you about it and figures that talking isn't doing anything. So what difference does it make, But what I wanted to talk about today, basically, which is kind of ties in with all this different stuff, is whether or not you're living an offensive life or a defensive life. And by offensive, I don't mean you're offending people. I just mean as a contrast to being defensive. A lot of the comments that you see from these expats, they're living a defensive life. It's kind of like taking a defensive position in the stock market or with your portfolio or something. You're trying to preserve what you have. And that's the situation that a lot of people are in, especially once you're retired and you're not in a position to keep making more money and finding ways to do things like that. For most people, you've got what you've got. Maybe it's going to be adjusted for cost of living, and the cost of living adjustments are going to be based on figures that don't really deal with true cost of living, the parameters that they use, they'll be measuring things that don't really apply to you. Because, you'll hear people talking about the inflation numbers even today, and if you look at how much extra people are actually paying compared to what they were a couple years back, the numbers are totally out of whack. People are paying 30, 40, 50% more, just to get a Big Mac or anything else, go to fill up your car with gas. It's not a single digit inflation, but when they go to adjust your Social Security or whatever, they're obviously not going to say, oh, well, we better give this person 20% more. So people are trying to, defend what they have, protect what they have. And a lot of times, if you're in that situation, you can't afford to get involved with somebody and, take on a bunch of extra expenses. That's like one person commented on my other video, knows people that end up over there. They're supporting some woman and like 3 or 4 other people of her family. And obviously that's something that you can't, is not sustainable. You move over to the Philippines with a limited budget, you gotta pay attention and protect what you have. And there's no argument about that. But this constant emphasis on what does the woman bring, it just, you have to know what kind of relationship you're in. If you're married to somebody, there's a difference than just going over there to pick up a girl. A lot of these guys, the vast majority of these people out there, and you'll see, some of us have probably seen thousands of videos from people over there, and it's all the same thing. Move over here to the Philippines, find a cheap place to rent, and anytime you want to, you can pick up and leave. If you're involved with a girl, maybe give her a little bit of an allowance or whatever. Make sure she knows what the limits are, and that that's it, no more. And if she doesn't like it, move on. There's always somebody younger and cuter and hornier who'll do more things that you like, and you can just like keep on going. It's all about you. And that's a part of the defensive lifestyle. It's also a little bit of a selfish lifestyle too. Someone who is married, has a family, they can't afford to live a purely defensive, selfish lifestyle. There's a basic difference. And a lot of guys, they're too busy thinking about protecting what they have and making sure that they aren't taken advantage of. And that's the only thing they care about. That's their baseline assumption, and that's what they are worried about. Everybody's trying to take advantage of you, and I'm not going to let it happen. That's their life. Everything they do revolves around that concept and that mental attitude. If you're married and you have a family, and this is it, that's your life, you can't afford to have that attitude. You have to be more open and, have to live, more of an offensive lifestyle. Not in terms, once again, of offending people, but just as a contrast to being on defense all the time. You have to think about, you're not just trying to protect what you have until you die. You have a life, and you're trying to grow things and take care of your family. People like to bitch about Western women, but thank you, Van, for pulling out in front of me as slow as you possibly can. The reason Western women are as bad as they are is that you look at the women's liberation movement and things like that. Wow, this guy isn't that real jerk for pulling out in front of me like this. They wanted to try and be able to do the things that men could. Unfortunately, the people that they chose as their example were the very worst men you could find. The ones that were always having sex with anything that moved, getting drunk, swearing all the time, smoking, And so they thought, well, if men can do those things, why can't we? And what we're seeing today is the result of that. You know, so many men think that they should be able to act like that, but they wanted women to stay the same as they were, with the same expectations. They were supposed to be different. I knew a guy a long time ago up in Pittsburgh. Used to hang out at this Applebee's where I knew all the bartenders and stuff. A lot of us used to hang out there. And he had the sweetest wife. She was a teacher, just a super sweet person. And when she was around with us, he was a decent guy. You know, he used to always talk about how his one cousin, you know, played football for the Chicago Bears, and which he thought was like the world's greatest thing, and stuff like that that nobody else cared about. But other than that, he was a pretty nice guy when she was around. As soon as she would leave, he was hitting on other girls, buying them drinks and flirting with everybody. And that's the way a lot of guys are. They think that's normal. It's okay for a man to act like that. But if a woman acts like that, oh, no, 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 you know. Suddenly they want a traditional woman. You know, if there's a difference between being a simp and being a nice guy. If you're married to someone, this is something else that I always heard when I was young. Some of you, I'm sure, also have, going to church or whatever, or hopefully even from your parents, you know, that a real man isn't trying to make his wife jealous of other women. Other women should look at his wife and they should be jealous of her. Sorry, looking at my backup camera here. Yes, thank you. Other women should be jealous of your wife. You know, there's an expression you'll hear over in the Philippines, sana all, you know? You'll hear it all the time. Yes, my wife says it to me sometimes, like if I'm off work and she has to work that day, she's like, sana all. You know, basically it means like, I wish I was like you. You know, it's like kind of like, I'm jealous of you. I wish I could be like that. That's what other women should be saying when they look at your wife. They should just, they should look at the way she's being treated. Not just, you know, oh, she got a foreigner who's taking care of her financially. But this guy treats her right. He loves her, respects her. And he's not doing it expecting something in return. If you really love someone, you know, if you're what I would call a man anyways, or a good person, a nice guy, you don't determine what kind of love and affection you give to someone based on what you're getting back from them. Let me see if I can try and keep this sun from shining on my face. I don't know. Yeah, the sunrise is shining into the windows on the bank building across the street and glaring right back in my face. It's like Star Trek 4. The one woman, she says, I don't know about you, but my compassion for someone isn't based upon my estimate of their intelligence. Whenever the guy was talking about, you know, they were letting the whales go back out in the ocean, you know, we should be a good person and treat people right, especially if it's our wife or our girlfriend or whatever, just because that's the right thing to do, you know, not because of what we're getting back from them. Obviously, if someone's just taking advantage of you and using you, that's not a good situation. You shouldn't stay around that. But this idea that if you move to the Philippines, you know, you should expect some girl who is living with you, giving you everything she has, giving you her body, taking care of you, cooking for you and all this. Some girl who is maybe she's working as a cashier or something, making a few $100s a month. You really seriously think that, you know, she should be helping out with your rent, you know? If you're moving to the Philippines thinking that you're going to find somebody over there to help pay your expenses, I just think that's crazy, you know? And, you know, I remember the one British guy a long time ago. I think Jack Northrop helped him get going and start his YouTube channel and hooked up, you know, with some stuff and got all of us who were his viewers to subscribe to the other guy. And his big deal, he was going to like prove that he could live over in the Philippines on $600 a month. Obviously, this was quite a while back. And then as soon as he moved over there, next thing you know, he's involved with some woman. And, you know, that pretty much goes your experiment, your budget, you know, whenever you decide to start a family. If you move over there and your plan is to just be on your own and you're only worried about yourself, that's one thing. You've got a very limited budget and you need to protect that and defend that. And so, that being your primary concern, if some woman comes into your life, then maybe you have to think about that. You know, like, is she going to give me some money and help pay my expenses? Or is she going to be expecting me to help her? Because I don't have enough money to take care of anybody else. I've got me. I've got enough money for me to survive. And unfortunately, a lot of guys are in that situation. They don't have enough money for someone else to be involved in the equation. And as soon as you get involved with a woman and bring somebody else into your life, and you've got those extra expenses, and then, oh, we're going to go this place and that place, and we're going to go travel around, and, you know, trying to help out people in her family and stuff, it's not going to work. But that's the harsh decision that you have to make about your own life. If you don't have enough money to be involved with somebody else and have a woman in your life, then maybe you don't have enough money to have a woman in your life, you know? But a lot of guys, they know that going over to the Philippines. They understand they don't have enough money to get involved with some woman and to, you know, have a family and stuff, but they go over there and they do it, you know? You know, it's just like this one friend of mine, you know, that I met one time when I was out on a route inspection team for the post office, and I was out driving around with him inspecting his route. And he was in the Marines, was over in the Philippines for a while. But that's what he said, you know, the first thing they told him all is, listen, when you go into town, please don't come back with a wife, you know. But that's what happens to a lot of guys. They go over there and they're thinking, okay, I've got my little budget and I'm going to go hang out in a tropical paradise and everything's going to be cheap. But then as soon as they get there, okay, then they want to find a woman. And it's easy to do. They're everywhere. And the temptation is irresistible because they're all over the place. And it's not like being back here in America. You know, you're a 65, 70-year-old guy hanging out, you know, with $1,500 a month. It's totally different. You get to the Philippines, you know, and you're a 65, 70-year-old guy with $1,500 a month. Your options are a lot different. But that's where there has to be some kind of self-control. And a lot of people don't have that. They don't have the ability to move over there and stay single and be on their own. And once that woman comes into your life, it changes things. But a lot of these guys, they think, well, if that woman's going to come into my life, she has to bring her own financial support. And that's just not the way it's going to work, you know? Like I say, you got, you know, a lot of these people, I mean, even people who have pretty decent jobs, they're only making what, like a few $100s a month, $500 a month. You know, say somebody's working 40 hours a week. Well, over there, it's more like 50, 60 hours a week. But let's say 40 hours a week even. Making $5 an hour, that's $200 a week. Which would be like 10, 11,000 pesos. How many people over there are making 11,000 pesos a week, you know? And even that would only be $800 a month. You're just not going to find a woman over there who's going to be able to move in with you and split the expenses with you. You can find that over here maybe, but when you get over there, it's a totally different situation. And if she is doing that, she's not going to be home all day. She's going to be working 6, 7 days a week, 10 hours a day. And, you know, it's like the people over there, I've known people over there work at some of these resorts and stuff. You know, they're living in their little room and basically from before sunup until after sundown, they're working, taking care of all the tourists and their needs. And that's what life is like there. If you're looking for someone to help you out with your expenses, don't go moving to the Philippines and think you're going to find some woman who's going to be able to not impact your nest egg. It's just not going to happen. But if you're living that kind of a defensive lifestyle, and that's your primary concern, it's going to affect the decisions you make. It has to. And that's what happens to people, though. They move over there, and instead of being an older, retired person making responsible decisions with their money, they think that they should be able to enjoy the, all the wonderful things that a young Filipina has to offer, and at the same time, not have that person take any of their money, not have it affect them financially. And that's just a very unrealistic expectation. So the choice is, up to you. Are you going to move over there and live a defensive lifestyle? You have to know that before you go, though, because it's going to affect your decisions. It's like that guy I talked about before. You want to move to the Philippines on $600 a month. Like I say, that was quite a while back. You better be staying single, If you're not content to stay single and live that kind of a lifestyle, don't go moving to the Philippines and think that you're not going to have any unexpected expenses, because it's just not going to happen. If you want to live an offensive lifestyle, where you're, seizing the day and, you're still looking forward to living a life, and you have the funds to do that, and try and make something more of your life, but moving into a new phase of things instead of just, kind of like an insular lifestyle where you're hanging out with a couple of other expats, having a cup of coffee every morning, and then do your little thing, and maybe hang out at the beach for a little bit and make a vlog. That's one thing. If you're expecting to move over there and make a new life where you're actually expanding your life instead of just trying to conserve what you have until the end, it's going to be a totally different lifestyle. And a lot of people, they move over there without the budget to live an offensive life, where they're in a situation there's no choice but to just try and protect what they have. But they want to do all these other things, and you can't do it. That's just life.